Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for sticking around. 35 already feels really good. I think I'm in a place where I'm just falling back in love with myself. And it's hard for me to believe that because I've really struggled in the past with identity and trying to figure out what makes me tick and what are my limitations and what is it that I don't tolerate. But I don't know whether it's my 30s, it could be, but it's good to get to a place where I now have a much better idea about who I am and what I want to do. So just thought I'd get that out of the way. I do want to get into 5 things on my mind. I love that you guys enjoy this segment so much, and I'm just going to keep this one pretty short and sweet because I feel like there's been a lot that's already happened, not just in the last few weeks, but in the last few months. The first one is a conversation that's been going on online big time, and this is to do with Kenyan music being played on mainstream media. We saw Calligraph Jones sort of put out a rant about it a couple of days ago. And then media houses and other artists kind of started getting into it, as well as, the public. This debate, it's not the first time this has happened. And on the one hand, artists are saying, we don't get enough airplay. We don't get enough support from media houses and presenters. They're hitting back and saying, we don't make the ultimate decision on what gets played. Technically, actually, we do the research and we play what people gravitate towards. Some Kenyans were saying to the artist, well, the quality of your music still isn't good enough. And if I can stop right there, I just feel like that can't be a debate anymore. I do feel like the quality of Kenyan music is at a place where now people are embracing it, not just in Kenya, but in Africa and around the world. I feel like artists are working so hard to put out great quality content, videos. They're paying attention to their image, to their vibe, and we can't say anymore that it's about the quality. That I don't agree with. I feel like the Kenyan public needs to be better educated on why it's important to embrace Kenyan music. I don't know that that's happened enough because immediately they say Bongo and Niger music is better, it's marketed better, it's better quality, these guys are more in touch with who they are, you Kenyan artists don't even put out music that we can relate to. And again, I think that's changing. So I feel like we're using similar sentiments from before, which don't really work now. So maybe we need to educate ourselves more. Maybe we need to understand where Kenyan artists are coming from. Victoria Kimani actually has a link in her bio right now, and she's listed, I think it's 50 Kenyan songs. And she's like, why don't you just take a listen and you'll see what we're trying to say. So maybe check out the link in her bio and take a look at some of the Kenyan music that she uploaded. Let's not stop having the debate, but let's change the narrative. It's no longer about quality. And then I guess people were also saying you need to push your music on YouTube and Apple and Spotify, and apparently that's happening to some extent. I'm also educating myself a lot. So bottom line is let's educate ourselves more before we just lash out, and let's kind of try and understand where the artists are coming from. That is the first thing on my mind. It's more like the first rant on my mind. So let's go to the second one, surviving R.Kelly. I think I'm on the 5th. It's probably one of the hardest documentaries to watch. I'm not going to go too into it right now because I feel like that's a whole other conversation I'd want to have. But if you haven't heard about it, this is a docu-series that shows the level of abuse and pedophilia that a lot of girls have suffered in the hands of the musician R.Kelly. And you think about it, we were very young when Aaliyah was R.Kelly's wife. There was a hot mess even back then. I think we were just too young to understand it, but that was at the time when we were in primary and high school. So there's been an issue for the longest time, but now people are brave enough to speak about it. And I applaud the women and men in this documentary. And unfortunately, there's still been a lot of backlash against them. People saying, oh, his music is still good. Oh, y'all are just saying that because he has money. Madness. I love that people are now brave enough to speak out. I feel like the Me Too movement has encouraged women who've endured years of abuse, who've sat on their emotions and their feelings for so long, to come out and speak on it. So for me, I think, like I said, it's a whole other discussion to be had, but our silence is what really instills so much pain in those who can't speak out. If somebody can speak for the voiceless, that's kind of what we need to be focusing on. And let's stop tolerating BS about people who are gifted and talented and using that to justify the gross and grotesque nature of what they've done and how many lives they've destroyed. That can't be an excuse anymore. And if somebody can't speak up, let's be the ones to speak up for them. And let's not be afraid for for the backlash and the insults that will come our way. It's okay. Maybe we've touched them somewhere that they're willing to react that way. And so mine is just, if somebody can't speak up, let's speak up for them. Watch the docuseries. Let's talk about it in another video because there's a much broader scope of issues around what we saw in that. The third thing on my mind is something that I've talked about or touched on in the past, but this is on period choices. I'm very passionate about menstrual hygiene management and just getting people to understand period poverty, but also choices when it comes to access to sanitary products. Disposable pads are what have been pushed for the longest time, but there's also the option of reusable, and this is from Safe Pads. It's actually a brand. I'm going to actually do an entire video on period choices, but I wanted to show you a preview on what the products are, just for you to start getting an idea. There's also the menstrual cup, and this is the more famously known Ruby cup. That's the brand, so that's the menstrual cup. And then there's also the tampons, and there it is. So there's this process in menstrual health management training called a period clinic. I'm a menstrual health management trainer, and so we were taken through what the clinic is, and it's basically when you go to communities and speak to women, you put out all the choices in front of them, which I love. It's a lot more progressive than giving them just pads. And you realize that some women, whether they're from informal settlements, whether they're from, places where they can access these products, let it be their choice, and let's just show them and get them to understand how best to use these products, how best to clean them, how best to keep them. So I'm really excited about doing this video because there's a lot of information that will go into it, so look out for that very soon. But period choices is on my mind because I think it's time we start broadening people's horizons and just get them more to be open-minded about what women have access to. The fourth thing on my mind, there was a video that went round of a girl a high school student who was drunk and walking around in Kitengela. It was a very heartbreaking video to watch because a lot of what she was saying in the video is, this is what I've seen my mom do anyway. Look, the reason I'm mentioning this video is because there's many elements to it that were heartbreaking. One, the fact that she was completely drunk out of her wits, just at the age of 15. The fact that she was roaming around and aimlessly, and the fact that she's now in recovery. At least I can establish that she's now in recovery. But the fact that this is something that she's seen as a norm in her household, it's just gotten me a little bit worried about the safety that our teens have in a lot of our homes or communities. There was also the story of the student who was shot in Kibera. There's a lot of these incidents that are happening, and I get the sense that young people are not feeling safe in their community, in their homes. They're either feeling judged by society or just feeling like people are working against them, and that there's also elements of neglect. It's something we need to be very, very present about. We can't wish it away and say, well, don't be blinded by your privilege. A lot of the times, I've been blinded by privilege before. I chose to step out of that bubble and that box, and you need to realize that their insecurities are not completely disconnected from our lives. It feeds into the cycle of crime, of poverty, and we need to understand that they need our help, they need our support where we can lend it. So those incidents of this girl and the young man who was shot have really weighed on me very heavily, because I get the sense that do our young people feel protected? Do they feel cared for? Do they feel looked after? And I get the sense that they don't. So I kind of want to look into that a little bit more, but that's just something that was playing in my mind when I saw that video, and I had it lingering for the next few days, found out where she is, was happy to find out that she has been rehabilitated, and hoping that she can change her life over because now she has a chance again. The fifth and final thing on my mind is how to self-love. It is not cheesy what I've just said, because let me tell you guys something. If you do not have self-love, I don't think you have the ability to thrive. That's just the truth. Did I know that before? Not so much. I used to ask myself, why do I always struggle with imposter syndrome? Why do I always struggle with not finishing something that I've started? Why do I always struggle with putting myself out there more than I know that I can? And I was like, why? It's self-love. It's the things that I feed myself. It's the information that I feed myself. So I have 3 ways that I think you can self-love, and allow me to just read these as I go. The first one is to challenge your negative story about yourself. there's a lot of noise that comes our way, right? There's a lot of people telling us that we're not good enough or comparing us to somebody else, and that in a way feeds into this negative outlook that we have on ourselves. I've chosen to challenge that and say, there's this quote that I love, which is, what if I fail? And it says, well, darling, what if you fly? And I love that. So yes, you could fail, which sometimes isn't necessarily a bad thing. But what if you don't? What if you're telling yourself that you're a failure and that you're not good enough and that there's always someone better than you? What if that's just all in your head? Which I can guarantee you it probably is. Just challenge it, literally, and I say this in a post recently, have a conversation with yourself, like sit down and have coffee with yourself and be like, okay, Janet, you keep telling yourself that you're not good enough, but what if you're actually pretty good? It's not about being arrogant, it's not about buying into your own hype, it's just about challenging the negative things that you say to yourself. So that's one way that you could try that. The second thing you could do is be kinder to yourself, and that's overall with what you eat, with again, how you speak to yourself, with how you take time to celebrate and appreciate yourself, with the things you say to yourself. Be kinder to yourself. And the third thing is make a what's working for me list. That's one way of not being pulled into things that are not really speaking to your heart and soul. It also allows you to know that this is where, it's where you draw the line. Yeah, that's it. It's where you draw the line. You'd think I was looking for a much harder term, but I wasn't. It's where you draw the line. And people don't do that because they're busy apologizing and saying, oh, it's okay, I'll just vumilia a bit more because this is what I'm supposed to do. Oh, it's okay, I'll just take all this BS that's coming my way because maybe this is what people go through. No, make a what works for me list. And if you feel like there's some things that are going against what makes you thrive and what makes you happy, do away with them. Make a list of, this is what I want to allow into my space, into my life. This is how I want to achieve my goals. This is how I need to learn to network, and let that be a part of what you internalize all the time. It'll make you more comfortable in your skin, I think. Self-love. 2019 should be a year of self-love, just overall. Those are the 5 things on my mind. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you haven't, share this video, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye.